day, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Unsilent, and we're on the air with another new game. It's Grand Prix 2. From 1996, this is a look at the 1994 Formula One World Championship, published by Microprose and developed by the legendary racing sim developer Geoff Crammond. In this series, we're going to take a look back at the 1994 Formula One World Drivers' Championship through the eyes of this game. We're going to fill you in with some historical details and try and win it ourselves. But we start the first of 16 rounds here in Sao Paulo, Brazil, the Brazilian Grand Prix from the Interlagos circuit. Yes, this is the same circuit that you run Formula One on now. A little different than what it is now, just more in terms of where there are mostly grass runoffs as opposed to gravel or tarmac runoffs. And the pit exit runs you right into the middle of Turn 3 and the exit of Turn 2, which kind of gets hairy a few times during this race and during my practice sessions. Now they exit right onto the back straight on the inside of Turn 3. We are Eddie Irvine in the Jordan-Hart. Now, in the actual 1994 championship, Eddie finished 16th on 6 points. His teammate was Rubens Barrichello. He finished fifth in the. He finished on 19 points, rather. I think he was 6th or 7th in the World Drivers' Championship. Jordan finished 5th in the World Constructors Championship, which is why I picked them, a nice midfield team. But we're going to try and improve on that in this season. Now, 1994's Formula One was much different than 2017's Formula One. You could just tell that by looking at the cars, but here's a look at some of the rules that were different. If you listen to the engine sound in the background, that is a 3.5-liter V10. They could run up to 12 cylinders. You had the Fords on 8 cylinders, the Ferrari on 12 cylinders, and everyone else with a naturally aspirated V10. And nowadays, 1.6-liter V6 hybrid, you have to have the energy recovery system, the ERS, that's all mandated. Also mandated in 2017, an 8-speed gearbox. Here, you could have as few as 4 forward gears or as many as 7. We have 6. Most of the field has 6. It wasn't really until 1998 that Ferrari added a 7th gear. Now, as for engines, now you're only allowed 4 power units in the season. Here, no restrictions. You would run 2 or 3 engines a weekend. You change your engines Saturday night and run a fresh one in the race. Refueling permitted for the first time in 1994. It was banned from 1983. Nowadays, refueling is banned entirely. You finish the race on the fuel you start with. That was banned in 2010. Numbers are permanently assigned to teams here. They're permanently assigned to drivers now. The number 27 was permanently assigned to Ferrari, a historic Ferrari number. Now it's Nico Hülkenberg's for as long as he's in Formula One. And points, it's 1st to 6th in 1994. There are 26 cars that start every race, so only the top 6 of 26 score points. Now, 20 cars are on the grid, and half of them score points. It's a little different between now and then. Now, we are running on the keyboard here. I couldn't get a controller or a wheel to work with this old DOS game, right? And it does make for some interesting moments, kind of like here we dip a toe onto the grass and loop it around. The game does have some keyboard input smoothing for steering, so it does make my steering a little bit more natural, but it does cause some hairy moments like this one into Turn 3. And on the front straight, you can hear the tires skidding as we make an emergency evasive maneuver around that Pacific. It shows itself most here in the twisty middle section, because for all the smoothing of steering inputs that the game does, and it really is nice that it does that, nobody does that anymore in keyboard controls for games, it doesn't smoothen your braking or throttle inputs, which makes things a little different. A little difficult, I should probably say. Anyway, let's fast forward to qualifying, the first of 2 qualifying sessions. Did I say 2 qualifying sessions? Yes, I did. In 1994, 2 one-hour sessions, one each on Friday and Saturday afternoon. You can put in a maximum of 12 laps. That includes in and out laps. You lose all your times if you exceed that. Nowadays, there's no lap restrictions, and you got your 3-stage knockout qualifying that takes from P20 to P16 out in the first stage, P15 to P11 in the second stage, and the top 10 are set using Q3 times here. Your fastest time between Friday and Saturday qualifying sessions, that's what sets the grid. And the 26 fastest cars of 28 entrants make the grid. No 107% rule. In 2017, you have to be within 107% of the fastest Q1 time in order to make the grid without a steward's dispensation. Here, it's just 26 fastest make the grid. And here we go with our first flying lap of the session. We go for a 19.8, which is provisional P2, but this is very early on in 2 days of qualifying sessions, and here I'm giving David Coulthard a piece of my mind. He caused me to abort a previous flying lap by holding me up, so I held him up a little bit, but we're all chasing this man, Michael Schumacher, the number 5 Benetton Ford. He crosses the line, a 19.1. That Benetton running on the V8, it doesn't have a lot of top speed. The best engine on the grid in terms of outright top speed would be the Ferrari V12, but that Benetton in Schumacher's hands, absolutely brilliant on this track, and he actually improved a bit on that 19.1 to a 19 flat. He's provisionally on pole position through the first session. Damon Hill and the Williams is almost 4 tenths behind. We managed P3 just ahead of Coulthard, the 2 Ferraris behind that. And Jos Verstappen, the second Benetton, and the second Jordan, Rubens, Barrichello in P8. Now, one of the noteworthy things is in row 6, 11th, 12th, it's Brundle and Hakkinen, the 2 McLaren Peugeots. They were 4th in the World Championship this season, and they're a little behind. Also of note, 26, the Pacific Ilmore of Bertrand Gachot. The Pacifics did not make the races very often, so for him to be in a qualifying position in P26, that's noteworthy. Jean-Marc Gounod is the other Simtek Ford. His teammates David Brabham 25th. The Simtex would make the grid most of the time, but they would occasionally trade off with the Pacifics if they missed the grid. Now it's on to Saturday qualifying. Now, it says P14 on my dash, but I'm still functionally P13, or P3 rather, even if the game doesn't show it here. It's just showing my ranking in Saturday qualifying. As I said, my best time from between Friday and Saturday sets my place on the grid. And here we go, my first flying attempt here, up through the final turns, build up a head of steam. I'm going to be 190 miles an hour at the line, and we set a 19.4. That's faster than what I said on Friday. And even though it says P1, I might be fastest in Saturday qualifying because I was the first ones to set a time, but I didn't actually improve my time because Hill is still just marginally faster than us, so we're still on row 2 of the grid. Now, we do have a small problem, though. We're still chasing someone. This man in the blue and green Benetton, it's Michael Schumacher once again. That Benetton doesn't have a lot of top end from that Ford V8, but he's so good in the twisty bits. He sets a 19 flat. He improves on his Friday time. And we managed to catch up to the time we saw him set. And we've gone P2 with 19.1, but we still have a little bit of room to go. This car is exceptionally good on low fuel. Okay, what car isn't? We're not so great on heavy fuel loads, but single lap, absolutely running empty. We are going gangbusters. 2 tenths of a second faster than our previous fast lap of 19.1. That'll be enough to drop us into the 18s ahead of Schumacher. Just impeded ever so slightly by the Simtek Ford of David Brabham there. On upwards through here. This is the trickiest part of the circuit because you're braking down to 50. You're turning right out of that other turn, out of the hairpin. So difficult into that turn. Now we've almost got a second. We catch I believe that was a Ligier that we just caught at the absolute right time. On charging upwards, we're a second ahead of where we were through 2 sectors. Can we improve any more? Yes, well, we lost a little bit of time, but we go to an 18.299. That is well ahead of that, 7 tenths ahead of Schumacher. And into provisional P1 on the grid. That is our fast lap of the qualifying sessions. I was trying to conserve fuel here and wasn't really paying attention to braking at that point. I was trying to make sure I had a car that could get back to the pits. But here it is, the final qualifying results. There we are, 7 tenths ahead of Schumacher for P1 on the grid. That was an absolutely blistering lap, but like I said, we were not as good in the free practice sessions as we were in the qualifying practice sessions. So that's going to make things a little difficult on us when it comes to race time. And speaking of race time, I think it's time that we looked at the starting grid for our Grand Prix 2 version of the 1994 Brazilian Grand Prix. I'm on pole as Eddie Irvine ahead of Michael Schumacher in the Benetton Ford. The two Williams, it's Damon Hill and David Coulthard in row 2. Yes, Senna was actually driving this race for Williams, and he scored the pole in the actual Brazilian Grand Prix. It's the two Ferraris, Berger and Alesi on row 3. Barrichello in the other Jordan and Jos Verstappen in the other Benetton. They're on row 4. Row 5, it's Ukyo Katayama in the Tyrrell Yamaha. He's ahead of Heinz-Gerald Frentzen in the Sauber Mercedes. Row 6, 11th to 12th, it's still Brundle and Hakkinen in the McLaren Peugeots. Not a great showing for a team that was very good this season. Mark Blundell, he's the other Tyrrell. He's on row 7. Pierluigi Martini in the Minardi Ford. He's on the outside. Johnny Herbert in the Lotus Mugen Honda. He is P15. P16 is Eric Coma in the La Rousse Ford. Eric Bernard in the Ligier. He's on the inside of row 9. Johnny Morbidelli in the first of the Footwork Fords. He's on the outside in P18. P19's his teammate Christian Fittipaldi. You might know him from IndyCar. Andrea de Cesaris in the second Sauber. He's 10 spots back of his teammate. The other LaRousse, it's Olivier Beretta and Olivier Penis in the other Ligier. Michele Alboreto in P23 in the Minardi. Alex Zanardi of IndyCar fame and later Formula 1 fame in P11 in the Lotus. David Browham in the Simtech. And Bertrand Gachot, shotgun on the field in the Pacific Gilmore. A rare appearance for the Pacific. Here we go. 18 laps of the Brazilian Grand Prix, 25% race distance. The start procedure is a little different than it is in Formula 1 now. 4 red lights come on. You've got 4 to 6 seconds, and then it is green, 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 and away we go. And one of the Williams gets an absolutely amazing start by us up the inside. One of the Benettons takes a look at us up the inside and holds up the entire field behind us. But we get a great run outside of turn 2 into turn 3, and we're going to take a look up the Williams. It's David Coulthard in the number 2, and we go by clean in the lead. Here's a look at the action replay. We use up all of the road on the exit of turn 2, which is why we always are going to get a great run down the back straight. Here's Coulthard's start. He didn't jump it. I'm surprised. He blitzed the field, hooked it up absolutely perfect in his Williams. Here's Verstappen. Now here's what happened. He goes right to the inside of the track, gets an absolutely atrocious line into turn 1, and holds up the whole rest of the field all the way back. That also cost him third spot. As you can look behind us in the mirror, there's Coulthard in the left mirror, and just ducking out behind them, that's Damon Hill. 1996 Formula 1 World Champion Damon Hill's also in our mirrors. We're in trouble. Also in trouble, Verstappen. There goes Schumacher by him to P4. He's on the hunt. We know he's got the fastest car in the field, and he is going to be the one we have to watch out for. Now coming up behind us, that Williams, that's a fast car. There's DC in our left mirrors, in our right mirror, and back to our left mirror, diving up the inside, and just absolutely leaves us for dead up the inside there. But here we go. We're going to get back to him. We didn't have to compromise our line through turn 2. Nice, easy peasy, lemon squeezy. But in behind him, did you take a look in behind DC there? That was... Here's the, I'll not spoil it yet. There goes DC, just clean as you can, but had to compromise his line. We get a big run out of 2, a little toe by clean as you can, but look behind us. There's that Benetton. There's that Benetton. Schumacher up nice and clean by Damon Hill and into P3. Next lap, it's Coulthard again. A little argy-bargy. Through turn 1, through turn 2, into turn 3, and we collide, and we get knocked up off the ground, and we lose all sorts of time and space to Coulthard. Here's a replay. we're looking for that same piece of real estate, trying to hit that apex in turn 3. Just no room for either of us. Neither of us wanted to give. And so the end result is that a little collision, and it lets Coulthard get away clean. Now we've got Damon Hill and the other Williams. We are punching above our depth in race pace, that's for sure, but we block the inside very well. Squeeze him out to the edge of turn 2 there. You're not getting by us, son. And now we have sent him back into the clutches of Michael Schumacher. Nice, easy, clean. Schumacher, you'll notice the Benetton has a raised nose. Not many cars in 1994 had that raised nose. Now we've got a problem. The number 5's right behind us, but he's not going to take a look at us here. Oh, yes, he is. Oh, yes, he is. Oh, there goes Schumacher right into the side of us and punts us off at turn 1. What was he thinking? He came back from absolutely Narnia in order to try and effect that overtaking attempt. Let's take a look at the replay. It looks a lot closer from here, but in the mirrors it didn't. He was all sorts of out of the control, trying to overtake us there. I'm the one that locked up, trying to go a little deeper, but Schumacher's just completely out of control heading into that turn. He was not making that turn without using us as a brake. How appropriate. Michael Schumacher running into a Canadian. Here we go, getting by our teammate Rubens Barrichello later on this same lap. That's because Schumacher is running around without a front wing. He is wounded and holding up the field. Unfortunately for Rubens, he was the first victim of that Benetton without a front wing, especially as you can see as we go into these slow turns. You'd think it'd be the opposite, that in the fast turns he would have no pace, but in the slow turns he has no pace. And he must have caught Rubens out. He catches us out right here. We punt into him. Well, turnabout's fair play and all that. We punt him off and absolutely destroy any chance he has in this race, but he punted us and destroyed any chance he had in this race altogether, too. So he is in a whole boatload of trouble, but Eddie getting into a collision with a Benetton, well, that's par for the course for this Brazilian Grand Prix. Look at the actual video from the 94 Brazilian Grand Prix down on the dash. That's Jos Verstappen going for a roll. Eddie on the left, avoiding Eric Coma. He pushes Jos, who's behind him, and onto the grass, and they collide with Eric and the Larus, along with Martin Brundle in the McLaren. And all 4 days that were done, actually, Eddie got a 3-race ban, because apparently it was his fault when you have back markers and broken cars and guys trying to pass you. Now here's us as Eddie going by Verstappen. Clean, very clean. Important to note that after that replay. Clean down the front straight, and we have taken position number 5. Next time by, here we are on the number 28. It's Gerhard Berger, but the straight line speed of that Ferrari, he's got us dead to rights down that front straight, but we know we are very, very good down this back straight. Can we go by Berger? Dive bomb and into P4. Lovely, lovely move, but we got a lot of help from Berger on that one. That one could have been ugly. Here's another replay. Lovely, lovely look out the back of the car. They don't show that one anymore in actual Formula 1, do they? And now here we go. We are trying to catch up with the number 27. It's Jean Lacey for a podium spot. We're thinking podium in the first race of the season as the fuel comes down. The speed of this Jordan comes up and nope. Driver error right there. We just dip a toe onto the grass and loop it around. It was looking so good. We probably could have had a Lacey there, but it wasn't to be. Now here we go into the second sector of the lap right behind Gerhard Berger. 4 laps to go, well 3.5, and now we know that that Ferrari is not very good in twisty bits. We know it's not good on its tires. Dive up the inside and a bit ambitious. And we collide with Berger and lose the spot. It looked like we had him going through the right-hander, but through the left he came back on us, and I was just trying to squeeze him out into this left-hander, and it just did not work out for me. That was entirely my fault. I could have had a podium, and instead, now I'm just holding on to the points. 3 laps to go up the inside of Verstappen. Cleaned as you like once again past the Benetton. Verstappen just does not have the pace of his more experienced teammate. Here we go later on this lap by one of the lapped cars. I believe that was the Simtek. As we're charging up the front straight. Just squeezed by the Pacific of Gasho. He's running a year-old Ilmor engine. The evolution of that's in the Sauber, so if you want to see how far the engines go in 1 year, from that Ilmor at the back of the grid to the Sauber nearer the front, and here we go. Nice, easy move up the inside of Gerhard Berger. We're up to P4. He certainly does have a bit of the red mist. He's got a better line out of turn 4 than we did. But as we get into this twisty bit, he falls back. Final lap, it's David Coulthard. He's won his first career Grand Prix in the 1994 Brazilian Grand Prix. Schumacher actually won this one after Senna spun out late in the going. And there we go. We take the checkered flag for P4. And a nice little touch in this game. Watch the corner marshals. They are giving you the post-race salute. I love it. Just a nice little touch. Maybe we'll get that in F1 2017. I doubt it, but I can hope. Anyway, that's the end of the race. Here's the final results. It's David Coulthard winning from Damon Hill by 1.5 seconds. The rest of us were nowhere close. Lacey 14 seconds back. We were almost 4 seconds behind him. And then Berger Verstappen rounding out the points. Barrichello 7th. That was a good result for him. Then you have the Tyrrell of Katayama, the Sauber of Frentzen, and Mika Hakkinen in the McLaren. They round out the top 10. And as we go a little farther back in the field, there's one name that is of interest here. It's Michael Schumacher, P18. He went from 26th when he made his pit stop on lap 6. And in the last 12 laps, he was able to climb up to 18th. Now, he wasn't going past any particularly great cars, except for maybe that Sauber. But as you can take a look from here, the fastest laps, he was by far and away better than everyone else on the grid. One other interesting note, Jos Verstappen in 8th, slower in his best lap than the Tyrrell of Ukyo Katayama. So it's more that Benetton, you don't really know how good that Benetton is, whether it's more the car or the driver, but I'm inclined to say it was the driver that made that 94 Benetton so good. Here's the points standings, Drivers' Championship table. After one round, it's the same as they finished. DC on top, followed by Damon Lacey, Irvine, myself, Gerhard Berger, and Jos Verstappen. The Constructors' Championship, maximum points for Williams, Renault, 16 points. Ferraris with their 3rd and 5th, they got 6 points. I took home 3 points for Jordan, and Jos took home the single point for 6th. The next round of the 1994 Formula One World Championship, it's the Pacific Grand Prix from the Tanaka International Circuit, Ada. Only 2 Formula One Grand Prix were run on here, 94 and 95. I do not like this circuit. 2.3 miles, I think 13 turns, and a Mickey Mouse section of everything, if there ever was one. So that'll do it for this time. We'll be back with the Pacific Grand Prix later, but until then, thanks very much for joining me. Like the video if you liked it, subscribe if you're new, share on social media, follow on social media. The social media handle is Unsilent on air. So until next time, thanks very much for joining me. Like, share, subscribe, and we'll see you next time.